Hello, welcome to Quack & Co.
That's not a thing.
It is if you search for it. We are working with a format that we've actually experimented with a little bit on the side called Best and Worst. This is our review format where we break down, clean and simple, the 3 best things about Marvel Zombies.
And the 3 worst things about Marvel Zombies.
Now, I do have to, of course, establish a bit of a caveat. You see, we, if you've been paying attention to the channel, have had some unbridled access to this game. So that means we've played it the most out of any reviewers out there, but we also have had exclusive access, and of course, 2 of those gameplays, only 2 of them, were sponsored. So keep that in mind as you watch this review. We are not holding our punches at all, and you can kind of track our trajectory when it comes to Marvel or when it comes to Zombicide as a unit. You've always been a massive fan.
Oh, yes.
My love and relationship with it has grown from really not liking the franchise at all originally.
And then the Western theme kind of pulled you in a little bit on Dead or Alive.
Played a little bit of Black Plague.
And then played some Invader.
Enjoyed Invader. And now I'm here with Marvel Zombicide, and I'm really excited to get it. We're both personally going all in on the campaign. We have the full, I think, Devourer pledge. But if you're not interested in watching someone who has some degree of a relationship with the company review or talk about the positives and negatives, feel free to turn off this video. That's perfectly fine. With that being said, we're going to tell you about what we like and specifically what we don't like. I've got my list over here. We're releasing as well a gameplay video within the hour you're watching this. And on that gameplay video, we're doing something kind of cool.
Yeah?
You know what we're doing.
We're playing a game?
No. We're potentially giving away...
We're potentially giving away a hungry pledge of Zombicide, the $430 pledge.
Yeah.
If we get... There's a couple caveats, which you can hear about in the gameplay video.
Yeah, swing over there. We'll have a link at the top of the video description or at the end of the video. Swing over there and check that out. We're going heroic mode, 4th gameplay here on the channel. We ended up doing it. It's 3 a.m. right now. We decided to open it back up and dive into it again to give the community more insight into what this game does and how it actually operates and
I got to play
runs.
as the hero mode because I've only played in the zombie mode before.
And my theory with gameplays or with any of this is whether or not you agree with my opinions or you think we think we have experienced the game enough, the more we can show you the audience gameplay and content and talk about it, the better you can make a judgment call if it's something you want to add to your collection, because there's no doubt this is a big decision to make.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a significant price tag. So if you want to enter for that giveaway, swing over there, check out the video, look at the link, look at the description to check out all the conditions and stuff. And with that being said, let's go back and forth. You want to start with best? You want to start with worst? Let's go best.
Okay.
Let's go back. Our 3 best.
Okay.
Now, what do you have to say?
The best... Okay, my first best thing is that when you are playing as virtually any character, the abilities that you get, the names of them, and everything that you can do really feels in theme and in line with the character. It's cool. You get the feeling of being in the Marvel Universe, and you're playing as some of the people you've come to know and love after all these years. I really love that thematic element.
Yeah, it's gonna tie right up here to the top of mine, which is powers and abilities. It's a thing that Boardgame Co talks about all the time, but here in Marvel Zombies, every character has their own unique set of powers and levels and abilities. And sure, you don't have the kind of production chain that you have in the older school zombies.
We'll talk about that more later.
But instead, here you're getting thematic traits for every single one you're playing. So Mystique has an ability that allows her to hide, or Magneto can crush skulls. We had Storm who can do lightning strikes.
Yeah. And
each one, not only with the name and the text and the ability, but also the application of it in the game feels like you're playing with that hero. I completely agree. And I like the fact that we were actually able to utilize and manipulate our heroic abilities, our zombie abilities.
I love choosing the team. And I've been thinking about more and more playing this actually solo. Because I love choosing it, going into the game and choosing the 4 people you're walking in with and knowing that you've created your team. And then being able to use them and play off of each other's skill set is really nice.
What I think I've learned, and what I've talked with you and Alex about, and what he has said, because he has more experience than both of us with Zombicide, is that, are you destroying a pen while fidgeting at the same time? What he has said is, in classic Zombicide, there's a point where your team starts to feel a little samey, because where you're producing, you're always going to have your tank, you're always going to have your support, you're going to have your 2 people that can run around the board and do things. Here, I do feel like the team that you're pulling together matters a little bit more. because everyone is going to be playing off of each other, and everyone has skill sets that rely on the rest of the team to be functional and to kind of cooperate.
Yeah.
So my number two is going to be mental stories.
Mental stories?
Yeah. I had to like pause to see what I actually wrote down.
Yeah,
That's what I wrote down.
Your handwriting is illegible?
My handwriting is cursive, not illegible. Here's the thing. This game, more than most games in this genre, elicit amazing storytelling opportunities in the way that an RPG, it's flavor text for me, right?
Okay, of course that'll
It's
be
true.
your
No,
second.
it is. Classic Zombicide does that, but it does that in a generic zombie movie environment.
This, within the setting of Marvel, you're able to feel it a lot more.
The very first time I sat down and I like recorded a full TTS playthrough, there was a point where I paused and I was like, I am playing with an IP I've grown to love, with characters and abilities in a nerdy board game, and we get to watch this unfold, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. Like, it just really is. It's neat to be running across zombie hordes as, like, zombie Iron Man, devouring and ripping people apart. Or it's cool to watch, like, random people pop up and you're rescuing Aunt May, or you're devouring Aunt May. Like, that type of storytelling in this game that it elicits largely because of the theme. And I know it's a cheap write-off to say one of my favorite things is the fact that it's a Marvel product.
Yeah.
But it is, and I don't need to apologize for that.
That ties into my second one, which is all the little Easter eggs and the little inside jokes that you see, like, popping up. Like, in each of the different games we've played, the scenario has been different. One scenario, we were trying to get into the Sanctum, and Doctor Strange was guarding it, and it was just interesting to see which characters popped up. Or, like, when we're playing with Spider-Man and Aunt May or MJ pop up. It's like, oh, he's going to want to go save them. But wait, like, he's just a pawn on the board. But it's the little jokes. And, like, the Avenger symbol. That was actually a weapon in one of our gameplays that we could throw and, like, kill a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, and in all the stuff they've released, with the miniatures to the artwork to just the Kickstarter
The detail
pile.
on the miniatures, like, on the basis of some of, like, the heroes and the abominations are so detailed and cool and in line with who the character really is.
Yeah. My last thing, my third thing. Actually, you should do your third thing.
My third thing is actually specifically for the zombie mode, which I am actually thinking I'm starting to like the zombie mode a little bit more than the hero mode.
Interesting.
And it's interesting because Alex feels the opposite. It's the hero mode that's pulling him in more. So I like the fact that you have to manage your hunger. You have to make every single round strategic decisions about the unknown fact that when you roll your dice to attack, you might be maxing out your hunger and then only have the ability to move and devour. It limits you in a really interesting way that requires an additional level of thinking and strategy and planning that I really enjoy.
Mine actually matches up with that almost directly. I wrote down modes of play, hunger, and power.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a preference for either or, but what the designers have done here is they've taken Zombicide and in a lot of ways streamlined, listened to the fan base, and made it a little bit more approachable while ramping the difficulty up, meaning you have to pay attention to what you're doing and the power levels, and then they've added this little mechanic for each mode, which has hunger on one, like you said, which is a balancing act of when do you give in to your bitter instincts and when can you control yourself and make tactical decisions. And they've added power, which is just a fun way to supplement dice and use abilities, and it's this resource that you're managing, and you have to decide when you expend actions in order to get more of it. And both of those, I found that mechanic system really simple to get your teeth into, but also really rewarding to play with.
Yeah.
I really like nearly every mechanical decision they've made here on the table. I think it works really well, and I think this is probably the most approachable Zombicide I've ever played.
This is the most streamlined.
Combined with the fact that it still isn't easy.
Yeah.
It still opens the door to random events destroying you, to strategic missteps destroying you, to all that crunchy goodness that you want. And we're playing on scenarios that have been built for us.
Yeah.
Not balanced, not weighted, not manipulated at all. I can't wait to actually see when it arrives.
Same.
So,
now we should dive into the worst.
Swing into the worst. Should I start or should you start?
I'll start. So, going off the last thing that I mentioned about how I like that hunger and that it gives you the more decision trees to go down, the first thing that I'm going to say is my worst is not having the equipment deck. And feeling like you have different types of attacks and different types of choices. For me, playing games is all about the decisions that you make in it. while I like the randomness that games introduce with dice and cards and events and stuff, I like to think and make the decisions and calculate things out, and not being able to go through an equipment deck and find different types, like, oh, you got a rifle, oh, you got a shotgun, oh, you got a hand grenade, and having these different types of weapons in your arsenal and being able to do 2 different types of attack. Like, most of the time when I was going through the equipment deck in Black Plague, I'd get a melee weapon and a ranged weapon, because then I would have both. It would be really cool to have some variability.
Now, they have tried to open that up a bit. They have characters you can rescue or devour that give you special abilities.
Yep.
They have your leveling tree, which does things like allows you to copy other attacks or copy other abilities, and they have the zombie traits or the heroic traits that let you, in some form, get more movement, get more actions. They really are.
But for the most part, when you are rolling your base group of dice, you're rolling dice.
Rolling the
there's
same.
No fun, cool things like, if you get this, then you get an extra hit. Or like in Black Plague, I think if you get a 6, you get to roll it again. Like
the exploding dice.
Yes, exploding dice. Like, there's certain interesting, nifty things that make it feel a little different than just chucking dice.
So, with the caveats that I'm putting there, the very top of my list is, I miss the item deck here.
And we didn't talk about our lists, by the way, before. We each sat down and wrote them and then went on camera.
I understand why they don't have it. Yeah. Because you can't have Hulk needing a shotgun, right? It's hard to prescribe for zombies and for heroes, but if I was going to have one thing that I wanted CMON to do between now and when people get into their hands is take a real hard look at how we can make some type of item deck available. And it doesn't even need, the weird thing is, it doesn't even need to change from the heroic abilities we have. I just don't really want it to be heroic abilities. Yeah. They work, they function, they do add depth, and they do add strategy, and
I just like them a little less than I do the item deck.
I want to find stuff, right? And whether that is like a Burbalist spore, or a satchel, or a baseball bat, whether that's like a car door, I don't know what it is, but I want Easter eggs, and I want little items, and I want trinkets. And there's something about, in a post-apocalyptic world, which for me, zombie experiences always have been, there is something about scrounging for what you can find in the environment you're in. And it really does take something away from that experience and away from that immersion when I'm looking for a new ability and not finding like a pocket knife.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
I agree.
It's probably my biggest single ding against the game. Which, that being said, I don't have a lot of major dings, but it's the one thing that, like, if I was going to ask, if I could control this game, it's the one thing that I would make sure we found a way to do it. I don't know how. It's
decisions. That's what I ultimately like about playing games.
For me, it's thematic as well.
Thematic.
Because I think the heroic traits add the same mechanical depth for me. I hear what you're saying about exploding dice and other weapons, but I think the thematic depth is there. With the exception that I just want items instead of traits.
I also don't like going on the same tangent that you're not restricted in when picking up a trait. So in Black Plague, I think you can only pick up the trait. You can only search for it inside a room. You can't search for it in hallways or outside.
Yeah, here you can do it once per turn anywhere. You can do it
once per turn anywhere, and it doesn't feel very restrictive. Yes, you can get a surprise attack, but
you're not searching.
You're not searching.
You're not scrounging.
Right, you're not scrounging, and it takes it away from being as much of a decision.
Yeah.
When you have to be inside a room and plan around being in a room and sequencing your turn so that you move into the room, you search, and then you leave another action just so that in case something pops up, you still have a reaction time. It takes more calculating. My
number 2 for the worst is actually going to be a broader Zombicide as a whole.
Okay.
The one thing that still, for me, makes some Zombicide games not perfect experiences, I think if you were rating it, you'd give Zombicide a 5 out of 5, right?
It is a 5 out of 5
With wiggle room for various different modules.
Yeah, different games
But the foundation as a whole is a 5 out of 5. I think it's probably a 4 out of 5 for me, with the context that more experience with something like Marvel Zombies might go to a 5 out of 5.
Yep.
But the general system is really, really great, but the one thing that sometimes makes it not right for me, when you play it right, when you don't play it with like a full arsenal of people, is the potential for randomness and feel-bad moments. Zombicide can have a thing where you flip a card and a hero spawns. Then you flip another card and that hero gets an activation, rushes forward, and murders someone without you being able to react.
Your game can be over within the span of 2 card draws.
It can be.
How is that different from your favorite game, Kingdom Death? monster. Because
no, it's never 2 card draws.
You can get something that drastically changes or takes you out before you can even go on the hunt.
Yeah,
You have feel bad moments in Kingdom Death.
You absolutely do. Kingdom Death, though, is about the settlement progression and the journey, and it's a larger story. It's a larger overarching campaign. Here with Zombicide, I might have just spent the last 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and I don't mind losing. It's not losing that's the problem. It's losing in an anticlimactic fashion.
Yeah.
It's losing because a swarm activated again.
It's losing because you got one dice
card.
that was like 1 pip too low.
It's losing because you missed a single roll. And you have that in Kingdom Death, but in Kingdom Death, it usually is on the back of 2 hours of in-depth play, combined with the fact that your game is not over when that happens. You just have a setback. And that setback is part of the larger story, right? I think it's a fair criticism, but it really is it's the one thing that I'd say 1 out of every 5 Zombicide games I play, I have a moment where I'm like, man.
That feels weird.
Like, that felt off. Like, I didn't lose there. The game just kind of screwed me. And that sucks.
Yeah.
So that's my number 2. And that's still here. You don't get rid of that, right?
My number 2 still goes hand in hand with number 1, and that's not having the decision tree of upgrading skills. I always liked with my characters to have the choice. Once you get to level, yellow is always an additional action, but orange usually gives you two skills to make, and then red also gives you 2 different skills to make. And those were interesting. Those were cool. And I think that could be a very easy change to make. On the card, you literally just have extra abilities to do.
Yeah.
I want more decisions.
Now, Alex and I do not agree with you on this.
I know.
And I think you're actually going to find that you're wrong.
You don't agree because there is a plethora of characters to pick from that you all both claim will feel different.
Are more interesting than your generic roles.
Right. Because with the regular Zombicide, you have about 20 different skills that are all mix-matched in different arrangements with all the different characters. That's what you have there, and you have to actually look up each skill because it's not written on the card, which pros to Marvel Zombies that it's on the card. But so where I disagree with you both is that I think people are going to have a strong attachment and favoritism to certain characters, and they're going to play those characters again and again and again, and it's going to get samey without having more decision trees to go up. I loved when I played with Hulk, his ability to take down the toughness was huge. And also playing just now with with Rogue and her ability to take down the toughness. I don't think I will ever walk into another game without taking one of those 2 characters out. Which means that they are going to feel the same and repetitive after a while.
Sure. I hear that. I think it's a fair thing for you to not like it. I think that's totally reasonable. I'm curious to see as you start designing and making up your parties if that changes. Because it might be more interesting to combine people and see that puzzle form. But I think
we're still playing Prototype and we're still playing on TTS, so we don't have the whole array of all the characters available.
I think your pushback, though, because that's the first time you've actually brought that pushback up, that people might become so attached to a character they only want to play with that party or with that unit, it could start feeling samey. It could. I don't know. It's a weird balance.
I have sentimental attachment to certain characters in the universe that aren't alive anymore, sadly. But I still have sentimental attachment to them, and I'm going to play them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. My number 3, then.
You skipped. Oh, that was my number 2. Yep.
That was your number 2. 3? My number 3. My number 3 is going to be character depth. I love the stories. I love the environment. I love what Marvel is doing here. Really. It really immerses you. Except, sometimes, someone like the Dark Phoenix, Zombie Phoenix, pops out, and in a turn you have her killed. And I'm like, cool, but, she's a badass. She's super powerful.
Yeah, that was also, in our most recent gameplay, I felt like we took out some of the people who were supposed to be the abominations way too quickly. They didn't have actually turns to activate.
Which strategically we needed to.
Strategically we needed to because they're very harmful. And we had very little health in this game. But in Black Plague, because that's my go-to when I'm comparing, Black Plague is kind of my best one out of all the Zombicides. The abominations usually wander around the board for a couple turns and do destruction. They are really hard to take down. You usually need to have bombs and exploding devices and grenades to take them down. And the people who are equivalent to the abominations in Marvel Zombies don't feel that level of scary.
What we've done is they've supplemented some of the damage and some of the piling on damage for the follow-through, where you need to do the max amount of damage possible in order to take them off the map, right? So we soup up ourselves, we roll as many dice as possible, we hope we get that, we use whatever manipulation we can, and we spend all of our actions on taking down the thing, because they are scary, and they will destroy you if they stay on the board. And you don't have the health to spend to avoid that. However, that means you focus fire and you wipe them out as quickly and efficiently as possible. So there's a back and forth. There's like a give and take there. And for me, I gotta be honest, sometimes they feel weaker than these superheroes in any form, real or zombified, should. Yeah. You should be able to take out one or two of them with a surprise bite to the back of the neck. However, one of them should just be on the board. One of them should be able to absorb damage. One of them should be in a position where you feel like you're fighting superhero versus superhero. And I almost think the lack of health and the lack of stacking health makes that feel a little bit off. They've simplified to it, where our characters have like 3 health each, and the enemy has like 3 to 6 health, and you need to do all the damage in one big hit in order to take them down. Well, that means you're not doing little attacks to pile up, so it doesn't feel like you're punching back and forth. That also means that for us, we feel weak, which makes us scared, which means we're not willing to absorb a hit. So there's no back and forth in the combat. Yeah,
it doesn't feel like you're dancing around and moving and strategically dodging the hits and taking some for the team. It's less of a dance and more like dart in, blow up, and then hang out.
Yeah, which works. And it's fun, but it does pull me out of the theme and out of the story.
Like, one of the decisions in Black Plague is like, oh, this help, like, you have to come into my zone because I cannot take all 3 hits that are going to be coming to me with the wolves that are coming at me. You have to be here and help absorb some of the hits. We split it among us.
So that's my number 3, character depth and kind of how they exist on the game state.
I would agree, and that should have been my third. My third is actually, and I had a really hard time coming up with a third one here. My third is actually that there's no campaign mode as far as I know. That was actually the one introduction of Zombicide 2nd Edition that I liked. I liked the fact that one of my favorite games of all times had a way that I could play and build upon the characters and make them better and improved from game to game.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The campaign mode wasn't hard enough for me, so I didn't end up playing through it. But I liked that option, and I thought it was a really cool idea. And it would be cool to have our same characters fighting up against the same monsters again and again, and being like, oh, he came back again.
I haven't seen a campaign mode. That being said, there is a ton of tiles and boxes and modes to play, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we get it in hand, there's some sort of mini little scenario sequence and people start making campaigns, which would be fun to play through. But I haven't seen anything officially, and we could be missing this, but I haven't seen anything that's like, there is a hard and fast comic book campaign mode.
Yeah, like just in like the Marvel Universe, you see some of the adversaries pop up in like one movie and then another movie. Like Thanos was around for a really long time and just looming in the background.
The issue for me is, I think I agree with you, but I think I have to make it as a ding against probably the limitations of what CMON has to operate in, and not that they didn't want to.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, when it comes to writing and scripting stories, there's no way they could have produced comic books for this, because there are Disney restrictions on that. There's no way they could probably tell their own unique story. It's really limiting in where they can create this game within.
It was the one thing that I kind of thought of.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That being said, I absolutely love this game.
Yeah.
I really do.
It's fun.
It's an absolute blast. Like I said, we're full in on the heavy duty pledge. We will be covering the heck out of it once it actually arrives. And this game has made me want to spend the next year digging into. We just got a full copy of Black Plague and Invader in hand. And we're going to start digging
I already
through.
know my answer, but if you could only pick one Zombicide of every single zombies that are out there, now that we've played a decent amount.
I've played Western, I've played
Invader,
I've played Night of the Living Dead, which is like a 2nd edition adaptation. I've played Black Plague, I've played Zombies.
Marvels?
It's Marvel Zombies for me, without a doubt. It's if I'm only going to have one on the shelf, it's going to be this one.
Good, because mine's Black Plague.
Still Black Plague.
My heart will be with Black Plague, and we just got a full pledge in, so that's not going anywhere. So I'm really happy that you like Marvel Zombies, because I also wanted to be on our shelf. But Black Plague is still tops it.
Still the one.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, there you have it. That's our review. That's our back and forth on Marvel Zombies.
Go check out that gameplay.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll at least enter to win the We had 500 people entered to win the exclusive little model. We just gave that away, so congratulations to the winner. You can see that in the gameplay video.
Yep.
Yeah. It is 4 a.m.
You gotta get to
something
work.
like that. I'm gonna edit these videos and get them up as soon as possible, like 3 hours from the point when we're filming them. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure you devour some innocent civilians.
Get out and play some games.
One day.
Kill some zombies. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks.